the firm and its environment. All managers, without exception, must consider their organization's external and internal environments before planning anything. Responding to the various forces elements of the firm's external and internal business environments is a must because failure to do so may bring about negative effects. However, managers must make sure that they respond based on the proper identification and evaluation of these forces elements in their surrounding environments. Lesson 1. Environmental forces and environmental scanning. Definition of terms. Environmental scanning, seeking for and sorting through data about the environment. External business environment refers to the factors elements outside the organization which may affect, either positively or negatively, the performance of the organization. Internal business environment refers to the factors elements within the organization which may affect, either positively or negatively, the performance of the organization. Inflation, a period of above normal general price increases, as reflected in the consumer and wholesale price indexes. Interest rates, the total amount that a borrower must pay annually to the lender and above the total amount borrowed. Changing options, the consumer's change in preference of goods and services offered. People's spending habits, consumers changing ways of spending their money on goods and services. Economic situations includes inflation rates of interest, people's spending habits, changing options, etc. Business environment refers to the factors or elements affecting a business organization. It may be divided into the external and internal business environments. The external business environment includes the factors and elements outside the organization which may affect its performance, either positively or negatively, while the internal business environment refers to the factors or elements within the organization which may also affect its performance, either positively or negatively. The environment in which a business operates is a major consideration in determining an organization's design or structure. Considerations such as uncertainty, procurement, and competition are linked with the external environment. A company's strategy and approach to operations must also be aligned with the limitations of its external environment as well as its internal environment. Components of the external business environment, general and specific. Systematic monitoring of the major external forces influencing organizations is necessary to improve the management of companies. Failure to consider a company's general and specific business environments may affect the strategies that management will make and use. The general business environment includes the economic, sociocultural, politico, legal, demographic, technological, and world and ecological situations. All these must be considered as managers plan, organize, staff, lead, and control their respective organizations. Inflation, rates of interest, changing options in stock markets, and people's spending habits are some examples of factors elements of economic situations. Economic situations may affect management practices in organizations. For example, companies may postpone expansion plans if bank loan interests are too high. Sociocultural situations include the customers, changing values and preferences. Customs could also affect management practices in companies. For example, Filipino customers are now conscious about the importance of avoiding fatty foods. So many food companies now make sure that the products they offer are cholesterol-free or are low in cholesterol. In doing so, they avoid losing their customers. Politico-legal situations refer to national or local laws, international laws, and rules and regulations that influence organizational management. For example, labor laws related to preventing employers from firing their employees without due process require the former to allow the latter to exercise their right to present their position during disciplinary action before their employment can be terminated. Demographic situations such as gender, age, education level, income, number of family members, geographic origin, etc., may also influence some managerial decisions in organizations. For example, decisions regarding hiring of human resources may be affected by an organization's management policy, that shows prejudice to the hearing of married females who are in the childbearing age because they would like to minimize payment of maternity leave benefits. The technological situations of companies involve the use of varied types of electronic gadgets and advanced technology such as computers, robotics, microprocessors, and others that have revolutionized business management. E-commerce, teleconferencing, and sophisticated information systems have rapidly changed the ways that business is conducted in the 21st century. World and ecological situations are related to the increasing number of global competitors and markets, as well as the nature and conditions of the changing natural environment. Products produced by companies, of course, must cater to the changing needs of people in the global community, while, at the same time, considering their impact on the natural environment. For example, car manufacturing managers must give the go signal for the development of vehicles that are environmental friendly, instead of only being focused on the product's speed, fuel economy, and design. Meanwhile, the specific business environment focuses on stakeholders, customers, pressure groups, and investors or owners and their employees. Stakeholders are parties likely to be affected by the activities of the organization, while customers are those who patronize the organization's products and services. Increasing customer sophistication makes it necessary for managers of organizations to make crucial decisions regarding the development of products with higher value and the improvement of their services to meet their patrons' increasing demands. Also, this has prompted companies to solicit feedback from their customers to avoid dissatisfaction that may lead them to patronize another company offering similar products and services instead. Suppliers are those who ensure the organization's continuous flow of needed and reasonably priced inputs or materials required for producing their goods and rendering their services. Inputs mentioned also include financial and labor supply. Managers decide what, where, and when to buy their supplies and which supplier to favor with their organization's supply orders. Pressure groups are special interest groups that try to exert influence on the organization's decisions or actions. For instance, pressure from the Food and Drug Administration on some department stores and drugstores led them to stop selling beauty products containing lead and to stop ordering or importing such products from their suppliers. The organization's investors or owners provide the company with the financial support it needs. The company, of course, cannot exist without them. Thus, they greatly influence organizational management. Top-level, middle-level, and lower-level managerial decisions are all influenced, in one way or another, by the investors or owners of organizations. Branching out, offering new products and services, and applying for needed loans are all affected by the investors' or owners' way of thinking. Employees are comprised of those who work for another or for an employer in exchange of salaries, wages, or other considerations. Employees execute the company's strategies and are important for the maintenance of the company's stability. For example, managerial decisions are influenced by the company's knowledge workers. Components of the internal business environment. An organization's internal business environment is composed of its resources, research and development, production, procurement of supplies, and the products and services it offers. The organization's internal environment must also be subjected to internal analyses. Internal strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats, SWOT with regards to its resources, financial, physical, ecological, technological and human resources, research and development endeavors, production of goods, procurement of supplies, materials, inputs, and finance. And products and services must all be considered prior to organizational planning. Components of environmental scanning. Developing a competitive mindset, considering future business scenarios, business prediction, SWOT analysis, and benchmarking. Adapting to environmental uncertainties must start with developing a competitive mindset. Ignorance of present-day realities may cause individuals or organizations to do certain things that they may regret in the future. Hence, environmental scanning is necessary. By seeking for and sorting through data about the environment, you may be able to understand and predict the various changes, opportunities, and threats that may affect organizations in the future. Knowing the present-day competitors, the possible number of barriers to entering your chosen business industry, the existence or non-existence of substitutes to your planned product or service, and possible dependence on powerful suppliers and customers will be helpful in developing a competitive mindset. You must also consider future business scenarios. By realistic consideration of both worst-case scenario or unfavorable future conditions and best-case scenario or favorable future conditions, as well as middle ground possible conditions, you will have an idea of what to do in the future. Meanwhile, business prediction, also known as business forecasting, is a method of predicting how variables in the environment will alter the future of business. It could be used in making decisions regarding offshoring, branching out locally, and expanding or downsizing the company. However, the accuracy of such business predictions may not always be assured. Benchmarking is defined as the process of measuring or comparing one's own products, services, and practices with those of the recognized industry leaders in order to identify areas for improvement. Best practices of said industry leaders are observed so that understanding their competitive advantage would be easier. This is followed by gathering information about the company's own operations and those of the other company in order to identify gaps. This, in turn, could be used to find out the underlying reasons for performance differences. From these said reasons, a set of best practices in one's own company will be listed down, and that ultimately leads to the company's improved performance. The local and international business environment of the firm. Definition of terms. Inflation rate, rate reflected during a period of above normal general price increases. Gross national product, GNP, total domestic and foreign output claimed by the residents of a country. Gross domestic product, GDP, total final output of goods and services produced by the country's economy within the country's territory. Currency exchange product, the rate at which central banks will exchange the country's currency for another. Worldwide environment refers to the external business environment, i.e. sociocultural, natural, politico, legal, and economic technological factors around the world. Globalization refers to changes in the dimensions of external environment that result to increased interdependence and integration among people and organizations around the world. Understanding the local and international business environment of the firm requires managers of organizations to sharpen their cultural intelligence. Cultural intelligence is an individual's ability to favorably receive and adjust to an unfamiliar way of doing things. This will enable them to develop their ability to accept and adapt to different cultures, both local and international, that may affect the organization to which they belong. Anthropologist Edward T. Hall, as cited by Schermerhorn, 2008, noted that the way people approach and deal with time varies across cultures. Monochronic cultures refer to cultures wherein people tend to do one thing at a time. Also, these cultures emphasize punctuality and sticking to set rules. Polychronic cultures, on the other hand, are more flexible as regards time. Accomplishing many different things at once is also common for these cultures. It may be very frustrating for one who is influenced by a monochronic culture to be dealing with one who is influenced by a polychronic culture if he or she does not possess cultural intelligence. Geert Hofstede, also cited by Schermerhorn, 2008, showed how selected countries ranked on the 5 cultural dimensions he studied. Power distance, the degree to which a society accepts or rejects the unequal distribution of power among people in organizations and the institutions of society. For example, India and the Philippines have high power distance, while the US and Australia have low power distance. The use of the terms sir and madam to refer to the boss superior by subordinate employees in the Philippines shows respect for authority figures or high power distance. In the US, subordinates just use the name or nickname of the boss when addressing him or her, indicating low power distance. Uncertainty avoidance. The degree to which society is uncomfortable with risk, change, and situational uncertainty. Managers in the U.S. are risk takers. Filipinos are seguristas that are afraid of taking risks within business endeavors in the market. Individualism collectivism. The degree to which a society emphasizes individual accomplishments versus collective accomplishments. Individualistic cultures like those of the U.S. and Australia are characterized as I and me cultures where employees prefer to work alone without help from others. Mexico, Thailand, and the Philippines exhibit collectivism or preference for group or teamwork. Masculinity-femininity. The degree to which a society values assertiveness and feelings of material success versus concern for relationships. The Japanese and Mexicans do not hesitate to push or express what they want, unmindful of hurting others' feelings, thus showing masculinity. Filipinos, Thais, and Swedes would rather keep quiet and accept defeat if what they want is not acceptable to others, thus exhibiting femininity. Time orientation. The degree to which a society emphasizes short-term thinking versus greater concern for the future or long-term thinking. The Americans, who are risk-takers, prefer short-term thinking. On the other hand, Filipinos and the Japanese, who are not risk-takers, are long-term thinkers. The local culture of a particular country also influences the management practices of firms. An example is the mañana habit, which is part of local Filipino culture and practiced by some Filipino workers. It is counterproductive since it encourages the postponement of performing tasks that can be done immediately to another day. Managing and disciplining workers who practice this habit would be easier for managers if they are able to identify the workers who adhere to such negative work habits and prevent them from doing it. This, however, is easier said than done because it is difficult to explain a country's unique cultural characteristics. Managing in a worldwide environment, cultural, politico-legal, and economic environments. The call for businesses to go global is hard to resist, as this is the trend prevailing in the 21st century. The economic and social benefits that come with globalization are said to be among the positive outcomes. Globalization advocates, however, fail to realize the very serious challenges faced by managers in adjusting to the cultural differences among different countries where they intend to do business. The culture of different countries are rooted in their history, religion, traditions, beliefs, and deep-seated values, and because of these, managing globally can be very complicated. Besides the cultural environment, the politico, legal, and economic environments must also be considered. The politico-legal environment refers to the laws and political climate of different countries. Some countries have stable laws and good political climate, while others have the opposite, unstable laws and risky political climate. Awareness of the economic issues of countries where organizations intend to establish business is also very important. For instance, do they have a free market or a planned economy? Answering this question is the first step because the country's economic system has the potential to influence the organization's decision-making. Other economic matters that must be considered are the inflation rates, the gross national product, gross domestic product, the currency exchange rates, taxation system, and others. Phases of economic development. Definition of terms. Economic development is a total process which includes not only economic growth or the increase in the given amount of goods and services produced by the country's economy, but also considers the social, political, cultural, and spiritual aspects of the country's growth. Economic development phases are the distinct stages involved in the total process of economic development in a particular country. These include economic growth, improvement of the Human Development Index, HDI, availability of benefits provided by science and technology, and the societal improvement of the opportunities and general welfare of its members. Economic growth, increase in the given amount of goods and services produced by the country's earning. Although material wealth accumulation is among the concerns of genuine economic development, its greater concern is the total improvement of the quality of people's lives. This, in turn, is related to sustainable economic development issues in a country which greatly influences business management. Sustainable economic development ensures that the present needs of a particular generation are fully met without endangering the ability of future generations to also fully meet their own needs. Business managers must be conscious of their decisions to avoid the abuse of ecological elements, air, water, and soil, as this will threaten sustainable economic development. Different countries have different management strategies to encourage ecological respect and prevent damage to the environment. Common environmental and ecological problems that have to be dealt with by business managers include destruction of natural habitats, depletion of clean water resources, urban, industrial, and agricultural pollution, and many more. In September 2000, world leaders gathered for the Millennium Summit and thus adopted the United Nations UN Millennium Declaration. By doing so, they had committed their nations to a global partnership toward the reduction of extreme poverty and the pursuit of the Millennium Development Goals, MDG. The MDGs, according to the UN, are the world's time-bound and quantified targets for addressing extreme poverty in its many dimensions: income poverty, hunger, disease, lack of adequate shelter, and exclusion, while promoting gender equality, education, and environmental stability. The deadline for the fulfillment of the MDGs was set for 2015. The following are the MDGs. 1. Eradicate extreme hunger and poverty. 2. Achieve universal primary education. 3. Promote gender equality and empower women. 4. Reduce child mortality. 5. Improve maternal health. 6. Combat HIV/AIDS, malaria, and other diseases. 7. Ensure environmental sustainability. 8. Develop a global partnership for development. Meanwhile, the National Economic and Development Authority, NEDA, has laid out the Philippine Development Plan, PDP, 2011-2016, which adopts a framework of inclusive growth, which is high growth that is sustained, generates mass employment, and reduces poverty. The PDP is focused on the following areas. 1. Pursuit of inclusive growth. 2. Macroeconomic policy. 3. Competitive industry and services sectors. 4. Competitive and sustainable agriculture and fisheries sector. 5. Accelerating infrastructure development. 6. Resilient and inclusive financial sector. 7. Good governance and the rule of law. 8. Social development. 9. Peace and security. 10. Conservation, protection, and rehabilitation of the environment and natural resources. It is evident from the PDP-focused areas that they cover not only the economic and industrial goals of the Philippines, but also the social, environmental, and peace and security aspects. The MDGs and the PDP can help guide the management of businesses in the Philippine setting. In particular, the PDP must be taken into consideration in order to deem management as appropriate or country-specific. Another potential means for economic growth and development is the planned integration of the 10 Southeast Asian nations in 2015, which include the Philippines. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, Economic Community, AEC, could help the Philippines achieve its goal of inclusive growth that creates jobs and reduces poverty. According to a joint study by the International Labor Organization, ILO, and the Asian Development Bank, ADB, titled ASEAN Community 2015, Managing Integration for Better Jobs and Shared Prosperity, released in October 2014, the success of the AEC lies in decisive actions taken by member states regarding policy recommendations, strengthening regional cooperation that may bring about structural changes, improvement of business and job opportunities and job quality, enhancement of skills boosting productivity, better wages, and management of labor migration. These may ensure that the benefits of equitable growth and development are shared among member countries and sectors. Since the AEC is envisioned to become a single common market and production base for an estimated 600 million people of different nationalities, it means freer flow of goods, services, investments, and labor. The study concluded that new opportunities for growth and prosperity may emerge, but the challenge is to ensure that growth is inclusive and prosperity is shared. Obviously, managers of businesses here in the Philippines must be concerned about the findings of the study, as these are new challenges for them. The improvement of management style and the skills, training, and education of their human resources are needed in order to cope with the possible changes that will be brought about by the ASEAN integration in 2015.